What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about a silly mistake that could end up costing you big down the road. So the other day, we had a 21 Camry that came in the shop, and the customer's complaint was their check engine light is on and all the other dash light is on, and the transmission was acting a little funny. And I believe it was a 21 TRD Camry, nice looking Camry. I'm like, okay, let me plug my scanner in and see what trouble codes I find in the ECM. So after I plugged the scanner in, it gave me a code for the neutral safety switch circuit. And I'm like, that neutral safety switch on these cars, on these transmissions, they don't really give issues. I have never replaced one except under these circumstances that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I didn't jump into conclusions. So I lifted up the hood. Surely enough, what do I find? This right here, battery acid all over the place. Now, you might be looking at this, you wondering, why is there so many corrosion? How did this happen? I'll tell you how it happens. You see, sometimes you'll see your battery terminals start developing acid and corrosion on top of the cables. And I've seen this online too, where people will comment, oh yeah, baking soda or Coca-Cola, just pour some Coca-Cola down the battery terminals, and that will get rid of the acid. It will neutralize the acid. Yes and no at the same time, because look at what we have here. I bet you that's what the customer did. Just took some water or some Coke or some soda that, they saw online, or some tips that they read up on. And they say, hey, I'm going to get rid of the battery acid myself. Let me pour some Coke down on this battery terminal. And then it just washes down everywhere. So what do you see right here? What's the problem with doing that? Well, if you're not careful, that acid is just going to eat and corrode everything it lands on. Everything that it touches, you could kiss it goodbye. Now, the aluminum parts in the housing on the transmission do a lot better because it's made out of aluminum. But as far as your connectors, it's all going to corrode away. It starts eating up the little pins inside the connectors. It makes its way through. So you're pouring that blue greenish acid down, and then you're pouring water on top of it, or whatever liquid you think is going to dissolve it or neutralize the acid. And then all that liquid mixture is just spreading on top of everything on top of that transmission. Now, depending on the truck you have or car, could determine certain symptoms, right? In this case, he had a TRD Camry. So the battery tray sits right on top of the transmission. So as he's washing it all down, all the acid is just getting inside the connectors, as you can see right here. You can see the connector starting, it has moisture inside of it. But look at the neutral safety switch. Look at the starter. Look at the top of the transmission case. Everything's corroded. Why? Because of that battery acid. He didn't clean it properly. And like I said, I see it online all the time. Oh, just pour some baking soda. Just pour some Coca-Cola. That will get rid of the acid. But there is a side effect to that. That's not the proper way to clean it. So I wanted to make this video to show the proper way to get rid of the battery acid you see on top of your terminal. While the battery is still sitting inside the battery tray, maybe put a couple rags around the terminal, and then just, flake the battery acid off. Don't let it just fall anywhere. Don't let it fall on your driveway, because if you have a nice driveway that's painted, it's going to corrode that too. If you have a nice, concrete, pavement driveway, it's going to stain that too. It's going to be so difficult to get it off. Pressure washing won't do it. Pretty much gonna have to get a whole new one. So don't make that mistake, guys. The proper way of cleaning is make sure you collect it with a rag. Don't be so quick to pour liquid down on top of the battery acid, because that's just going to spread it. And once it starts spreading, that's it. It's a wrap. There's no going back. So like I said, keep a rag around the battery terminal. Get as much as you can off. Even if some falls on the battery tray, that's fine. As long as it doesn't fall on top of the transmission or anywhere on the metal component or wiring harness inside the car. If it doesn't fall on any of those components, you're fine. So just kind of flake it off if you have to. Let it fall on the tray. And then from there, you can go ahead and proceed to remove the terminal, remove the battery, and let all the battery acid sit on the tray. And then from there, take that tray and then just go dump it out. Never just take the battery acid and just pour Coca-Cola and then just let it go wherever you want, because that's going to corrode everything, and we're going to end up with what you see here. Everything is destroyed. And once it starts like that, guys, you can go and take a pressure washer and then try to do whatever you want. There's no getting rid of that. Right when the corrosion starts, it's a wrap. And for me, I don't think I would want the car anymore. There's nothing more I hate than acid corrosion on a car. So now in this customer's case, something simple as just a battery acid turned into, now he needs a neutral safety switch and possibly wiring harness. Because, I mean, look at these harnesses. Look at the brackets. Look at the transmission case. Look at the starter. Everything is corroding away, all because he didn't clean the battery acid properly. Now, I'm not just saying it was the customer. Maybe it was a outside shop. Maybe it was somewhere he, stopped by along the way, or maybe his buddy's like, hey, I know how to get rid of this acid. Oh yeah, just pour some Coca-Cola down there and it will get rid of it. And then, as you can see, it ended up costing him a lot because now the neutral safety switch is bad because it's all corroded inside. So what's happening inside that neutral safety switch, as you move the shifter selector, the transmission mechanically is in park, reverse, and drive, neutral, whatever position you shift it to. But electronically, the ECM is being tricked because it's shorting out. So mechanically, the transmission may be in whatever selective gear you selected. But electronically, because things are shorting out, you might be in drive and all of a sudden the wrong things shorted out inside the neutral safety switch. Now the ECM is reading neutral. ECM is seeing reverse. It doesn't like that reading. So it can't be a case where you're on the highway driving and out of nowhere the ECM, hey, I was in drive, all of a sudden I'm in neutral. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to set off a check engine light. I'm going to maybe put it in limp mode. I'm going to try to disable something because something's not making sense. It knows mechanically that the transmission is in drive, but at the same time, you have electrical issues because the connector is wet. All the acid corrosion made its way inside the pin. And now the computer is freaking out. So you guys don't want to find yourself in this situation, man, because that's a TRD Camry. So it could be any car. This could happen to any car. Car, trucks, SUVs, it doesn't matter. It's not only related or only pertaining to Toyotas. So any make and model out there, if you guys have to clean that battery acid, don't just pour baking soda and water or whatever you guys are using. There's actually a acid neutralizer that, we sell in the parts department that you can use. But even with that too, same thing. Don't just pour it down and let the battery acid go wherever it wants. You're going to destroy your connectors. You're going to destroy your wiring harness. Now, just looking at this video, do you think it's worth, having underneath your hood look like this, all corroded away? I wouldn't want my car looking like that. I'll tell you a funny story. I remember my first mechanic job, man, when I started working at a Cadillac dealer. That was my first job as an automotive technician. I would say maybe around 2010. 2010, I started working at Cadillac. And I remember a Cadillac XTS came in with battery corrosion on top of the battery terminal. I was a young buck, well, I'm still fairly young, but I was a younger young buck back then, and I did the same thing. I didn't think much of the battery acid. So I'm like, oh yeah, let me just clean it, let me just brush it off, and that battery acid just got everywhere. I didn't think much of it. Replaced the battery, job is done, boom, car left. And throughout the years or months that I was working there, I saw the same XTS coming back and I ended up working on it. Customer never knew. And I look underneath the hood and I could see where the battery acid was starting to corrode everything. It didn't give no drivability symptom. Like I said, it all depends on what it hits and what it lands on, depending on the design and the setup. Sometimes it might fall directly on top of the transmission. Sometimes there might be connectors in between. And sometimes it might just be the transmission case that gets affected. But in the XTS, I just saw how it was just corroding the top of the transmission case away. And I'm just like, man, I felt so bad, man. I'm like, and I know the damage is already done. It's already months in. And I'm just seeing everything just rusty brown, rusty orange. And I'm like, man, this customer pays so much money for this XTS, Cadillac XTS. And here it is corroding that so badly because of the battery acid I didn't properly clean off. So that was a lesson that I learned earlier on in my mechanic journey, you know. So I learned to properly clean the battery acid corrosion off. So every time I see, people are saying, just pour baking soda, I'm like, you don't want to do that, man. You're going to run into some trouble. Going back to that customer with the Camry, lucky for him, in his case, all he needed was just a neutral safety switch. But looking at this, only time would tell if the harness starts getting affected or if there's any other damage, or maybe even the starter. The starter, as you can see for yourself, that it's corroding away too. And usually once you go down to wiring harness, engine wiring harness, it becomes so expensive that you got to get your insurance companies involved. And now they're going to raise your rate, and who knows what they're going to do. And all because of what? A little battery acid on the battery terminal. Like I said, don't just take your blow gun and, just start blowing it off and letting it go wherever it wants. Be careful with that battery acid, man. It's small, it's something simple. I know it's easy to just flake off and then just brush off, and, you definitely don't want to be breathing it in. That's one thing, but at the same time, don't let it just fall anywhere inside the engine bay. Be careful that it doesn't fall on any electrical components. Be careful it doesn't fall on any metal components. Be careful it doesn't fall anywhere but a cup, battery tray that's plastic that you're going to easily take out and dump out in the trash. But certainly you don't want to just flake it off anywhere and think things will be fine. So what's the key takeaway, guys? Anytime you see that battery acid starting to develop on top of your battery terminals, take your time to clean it properly. Don't just blow it off with some air. Don't just pour baking soda or Coca-Cola down on top of it and just thinking that would be the end of it. It's all nice and clean. No, wherever that liquid rinse off to is going to corrode, and that's most likely on top of your transmission. If it's a front-wheel drive, most likely that's where the battery is sitting, right on top of the transmission. And if it's a truck, it could still fall into some harness, some, your frame. You don't want that stuff just eating away the car components. And you certainly don't want that rusty liquid falling on your driveway. It's going to stain it. So that's how you see, people with their driveway got that orange rusty spot. That's battery acid that, is probably leaking down, and then it just stained your driveway. So let me know down in the comments, guys, if you've ever made this rookie mistake, whether it was on your car personally or your earlier years as a mechanic, you did that to a customer's car, and now you're just regretting it and just kicking yourself and punching the air because you feel bad, as you should. Let me know down in the comments. If you found this video informative in any way, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. As always, thanks for watching.